John, is your mic working all right?
It is.
Good deal. Good deal. Well, we sure appreciate you joining us here at the NRS Experience. And tell me a little bit about this product. I mean, it's a newer roping dummy right here, right?
It is. It is. What we did is, you know, I guess you'd say it was invented from a challenge standpoint. There's a lot of dummies out there.
Right.
You know, you have a lot of things you can rope.
Sure.
People make their own dummies. There's a lot manufactured. And really, it was just that we found that there wasn't one that was really enhancing or improving somebody when they're not roping it without somebody watching them.
Sure.
So we took the science behind it. I was originally in the video production industry, so we just took everything in slow-mo jumbo screen, and we studied all the greatest ropers, and we watched their loops. We watched angles, we watched delivery points, positioning, rope buildup, you name it. We broke it down to a science, and then implemented that into our design.
I see.
And then it's been an R&D for 4 years, and it's really done phenomenal. It's a lot of happy ropers.
Well, perfect. Well, yeah, this is kind of my first time to, you know, I've seen it in a few stores and haven't actually seen somebody, you know, explain it and rope it, and I'll let you take over right here and
fantastic.
You can show it to us.
Fantastic,
All
fantastic.
Right, thank you, sir. Thank you.
First thing I want to talk about in our design, we wanted a dummy that was easy to pack up, easy to take with us, and so a lot of the dummies are bulkier, heavier, a little awkward to store in our trailer. Let's pull this post out. So we had a design. We wanted something that was compact, was clean. We can actually drop our tailgate of our truck, and we can slide this right back underneath the gooseneck of our trailer, close it back up, and it goes everywhere we go. And so that was one of the important things to me. I didn't want a dummy that was so big and bulky or a pain to carry around that I was going to leave it at home. I wanted something that was everywhere. And on the heel side, of course, for years, and probably like a lot of guys, you know, grab a sawed-off sawhorse and bring it with me everywhere I go, and then have a head and dummy of some shape and form thrown in the truck, and, you know, everything but the kitchen sink with us, so we could go ahead and practice where we were going to compete. Another thing we wanted in our dummy was a multi-discipline dummy. There's lots of things out there to heel, sawhorses, different leg devices, and there's lots of things you can head. And let me check this out real quick, guys. I think my lav mic took a jump. Okay, and so anyways, we wanted something that was multidiscipline. I head and heel, I do both ends. A lot of guys I know do both ends, and I've never met a header that goes to a team roping by himself. He's got to have a heeler. And so even if he's just heading it, whoever's roping with him or hauling with him is going to have something they can heel as well. What I would like to first get into a little bit on the design, and I'm going to answer the one question that I get asked 8,052 times a day is, what's up with the post? And of course, you could say it's Vegas themed, or you could say it's to play T-ball on, or a lot of things, but this post right here obviously has struck a lot of people's curiosity. A lot of people don't believe how well a good head loop goes over that. They would never think that their loop would travel over that post. And the reason we use the post is, first and foremost, to get the proper plane in our loop. Everybody who heads, especially the majority of low-numbered headers, mid-numbered headers, splitting the horns and waving off the horns is pretty much part of everyday life. It's something that everybody lives with. And so when we look at this loop, if I had a nice flat loop, and a lot of guys are lower-numbered, mid-numbered, they'll ride to that sweet spot, and they'll just kind of drag that rope on the horns. They don't ever really release it and let that tip get out front. And so they'll drag this loop on here, and without that post, it would slide across, come around, and it's going to figure over here just like we'd expect it to, but it hits the shoulder. Or if you miss your bobble, your slack, it's going to come all the way back around, and it's going to do that Christmas wrap that all of us have seen from the head loop. And when they pull this, some of them stay on, and some of them do that. They simply wave off. And so it's one of the biggest misses in team roping is a wave off. And when you simply correct the plane of the loop, the point of your delivery, when you let go of your loop, it pretty much erases a wave off. It's just gone. And the other thing was splitting the horns. Everybody split the horns. The pros do it here at the NFR. They'll be going so fast and trying to be so quick at this deal that we will see every flaw, human flaw, in the top pros in our industry over the next 10 days. And it just shows how human they are, but at the same point, when you take something that's so perfect and you put so much speed on it, trying to maintain it, it's difficult. So on the splitting the horns, when a guy comes around and he drops his loop just a little early, it's always going to drop down, go around the front, and some of them you're going to fish back on. Some of them you're going to go ahead and half head. But a lot of those, you're going to go and pick it up. Even if you try to get it and the loop picked up, it's going to come off that nose, and you're going to have nothing but a right horn. And a lot of guys in the lower end heading, we've thrown that loop, you dally and you turn off, and then you look back and there's no steer in it at all. Because that same soft loop, they turn out early and the steer tips his head and he's out of it. So those are two of the biggest misses in team roping. And with this pole in here, you literally, it's going to speak to you when you're by yourself. You haven't swung a rope in, say, 2 or 3 weeks, you step up to the dummy and you start swatting that pole, you know immediately, okay, I'm doing something wrong. Versus walking up to a dummy and roping it 50 times in a row and saying, man, I'm good, I just roped that thing 50 times in a row. You jump in the arena, you run out there, and all of a sudden, first round, you miss half your cows. And how many people go into the first rotation of a team roping and miss half their cows? I mean, the first rotation usually cuts in half by what, 50%, 60%? And I don't know about you, but those are pretty high dollar practice runs. And so when I'm out in the parking lot with my dummy, I'm out there and I'm roping something that's telling me if I'm a little off, if I'm delivering a little bit early or a little bit flat, and I'm also having to pack my rope at a realistic angle like I'm about to do off my horse. And by saying that, what we did is we wanted the head to come off the shoulders just like a steer would run, out flat and out in front of it. With that steer's head down and out front and this pole being on there, and then that hump of that shoulder, I get back here, that window's really small. So instinct, I don't even have to tell people, they just automatically pack their hand up here higher with more steepness to their loop. Again, how many times have we seen somebody draw a great cow, come out, not be ready, swing 2 bad swings because they need 5 to get a good one, and the steer's right there, and they throw it right down the side of the steer's head. It just right in the dirt, never crosses. Just carrying even a bad loop far enough, halfway perfect loop, is going to go ahead and produce a whole lot more results than a loop that's dropped early. So the other thing I wanted to do is I wanted to do more than just practice a free throw shot. So everybody likes to shoot free throws, but no pro basketball players are going to step up there and shoot nothing but free throws. So with this dummy here, we can obviously take the head out. Let me loosen this up a little bit. We can take the steer's head out. We can rotate it at any angle we want. And now I've got that dirty steer. And hopefully we don't get these at the rope, and we sure enough got them in our practice pen, and learn how to get my tip over and maintain that same plane, but at a totally different angle. And those are going to happen. And if your heeler overhazes and brings his steer to you, he's going to have his head rolled a little bit like that. And you'll see a lot of people rope a dummy where they'll run up to it and they'll drop that rope and they'll step out sideways like they're pretending they're going fast. In those loops on live cattle, those cows tip their horns like this. The head comes to you a little bit as he's being hazed hard. And when they do that, and they don't do it every time, but when they do that and you throw that same flat loop, it goes on here, it's going to grab this top horn, and it's going to do the famous what I call around the world. It's going to come around like this, do a 360, and right back off again. And everybody's seen just, and they're gone. So having something we can practice more than the free throw shot on was super, super important to us. On the position of the post and the height, like the height has everything to do with the plane, but the position, we wanted to add more benefit to it and reference point, so when a guy was out there practicing, it gave him some reference of where to stand and why to stand. And so we moved this post back. And initially, we were just looking for a lineup of a 45-degree angle. And so when we moved off here, and a person's on the ground going to rope this, they're going to stand out here, and they're going to line themselves up. And now they're out here at the right position and the right width. And when I say the right position and the right width, what I mean by that is it's the position and the width that's going to allow you to handle the steer at its maximum capacity and make the best use of every cow. And if you think about how centrifugal force works, how weight and speed are affected, and when you hinge that weight and speed to an object, your saddle horn, what it produces on the back end of it, most of us here, I would assume by looking around, there's a few young people, most of us are, at our prime, we've swung a kid. You walk up to some kid that's sitting on a swing, now mind you, those chains are hinged up there at the top of the swing set. So I reach down there and I grab that kid by the back of the swing and I pick him up, and I load that weight at about a 45, and I let him go. That kid's going to swing all by themselves. Slowly, it'll slow down. And so that principle, when you think about heading, when you're over here at a 45 and you rope that steer and you hinge your rope now to what would be the top of the swing set, and you slow your horse down, when that steer's head comes, he's not only going to handle well, but instantaneously his feet are going to come under your control. And when you think about taking a kid off the ground by their hands and swinging them in a circle, their feet come off the ground. And anybody who has ever heeled knows what it's like to have to try to rope one underneath us that's washed out and it's on a loose rope going back underneath. His feet are not landing together. They're spread out. They're really, really tough to heel. But when a steer goes through that corner and kind of breaks out and his feet are to the outside, you can actually throw a really, really bad delivery and lay your loop outside, and your header's going to about drag you in a leg because you're just that close and the steer's feet are in good control. And so you break roping down just a little bit, like I try to analyze it, and this distance and the ease that it is to handle a steer, and then it starts progressing back into your horsemanship and the quality and the calmness of your horse. Because if you take that little kid and you pick him up in the swing and you go like this and you drop that little kid, if it's your grandson or your child, they're never going to ask you to swing him again. They're going to hit the end of that bam, hit the end of it, and they're going to fall out. Okay, why does it surprise us when we ride a head horse right here and we roll up here and we rope that steer and we secure him and then wham, he takes a direct hit? Why does it surprise us that a horse isn't going to like that? And then when we have that direct hit, mind you, and we're back here, not only does it produce that, but it produces that. And as a heeler, if you dump in early on that, then you have to wait for this, for the steer to start moving. And so that steer's going to wash out, he's going to hang, he's going to be really, really hard to heel. And unless you're a really, really talented, naturally talented guy that can pull time out of a half swing, your chances of catching him are just about nil. Okay, so the post gives you a great reference point, teaches you where to rope from, and if this is not your comfort zone, you are sure enough going to walk up here and probably miss it a few times. But the deal is, do you invest money into your saddles, your tack, your bell boots, training machines, roping dummies, entry fees, trucks, trailers, insurance? And if I keep going, we're all going to want to quit roping because we're just going to shock ourselves. But the bottom line is, do we invest all of that in there to make it easy for us? Do we want easy? Because for me, I'd rather be challenged at home in my own arena, working out the kinks, perfecting my loop there, so when I go somewhere, I have a reward, which is called going to the pay window, having some sort of success at everything I put all my time and effort and money into. So, on this pole, the other thing is the position back from the head. A lot of people, they think that the Hondu hits the steer right on the back of the head. Now, everybody mind, mark my words here, over the next 10 days, we will see somebody's head loop, sure enough, smack the steer right in the back of the head. And when that happens, you're going to see the effects of a poorly thrown head loop. Most likely, it's going to be pushed. It's going to figure it out in front of the steer. He's going to be lucky to keep it on, and he's got a high chance of picking up a front foot. Okay, and so by putting this post here, we have a lot of people that they build up and they rope. Every single loop is a little different in size. But when you're trying to rope a steer from way back and trying to get that tip on there, and you've got this much loop back here, your chances of getting that whole head caught are really, really thin. And then if you do catch one, your rope's something clear back here in the middle of the back, and again, you got everything that's going to go for a wave off, front foot catch, and a bad handle. So it's a dead loop. Likewise, if we're throwing a loop that's hitting them on the back of the head and pushing it up there, it's opening up late. Again, catching both horns, and we just take a look at this loop for a second. Catching both horns with this much of the loop or this much of the loop is not near as easy as using this much of the loop. And so it being back from the head, when a guy's working on the buildup of his loop, he should get to the point where when he ropes this, it's landing right there in the center of his loop. It's not in the front, not in the back, and so it's pushed back for that very, very reason. The Hondu only snatches down to the back of the head when we pull that perfect curl out, which is right back here. And when we tighten that up, it's always going to suck down right there at the base of the left horn. So there's, you know, some verbiage, I guess you'd say. It's kind of like, you know, my wife saying something's coral and me saying it's peach. Doesn't matter which each one of us call it, it's still going to be the same thing. Like we could argue over your sweater. That's coral, no, it's peach. You know, and it's still her sweater. It's not going to change colors. And when you talk about a lot of things in team roping, it's just like that. And that's why I turned the volume off and I went to studying these pros, watching their angles, watching their deliveries, and thinking, wow, that's pretty amazing. Every one of these guys has this common denominator. And so when we look at top ropers and we look at their common denominators, we can find them. There's unique styles. There's things that look a little different. There's some heelers that pull off really fast shots, some heelers that seem to rope a little bit slower out in front of them, some heelers that put their loop in front of the legs right when it's on the ground before they jump, some they do it after they jump. And so there's a lot of differences there. So now you know why we have a pole for the plane of the loop. Can't throw a flat loop. We've got the head that rotates both left and right, so we can practice more than just your one dimension shot, and the position of the pole back to make sure we're using the proper buildup. The other thing I did when I talked about multidiscipline, obviously it's got back feet, and I'm going to get to that in a second, But we have a lot of families that calf rope. They breakaway rope. They got kids that are grandkids that rope. And so when they can slip this off and slip our calf head on, and I'm going to ask one of my guys that are on here if they would bring me a calf head. When you slip a calf head on, now I can close up the feet, take the head off, and now I've got a calf roping dummy. And it's not just any calf roping dummy. I truly, honestly believe, like we did in our steer roping dummy, it is by far the best calf roping head that's ever been designed. It is one of the most challenging to catch, but yet you watch a guy who can really rope calves good, and he makes it look easy. The top world pros stopped by the booth last year, and they were roping this, and they would back up 4 coils and from the knot rope that head and that pole, and they would say it was easy. And I said it should be. It should be for them. It should be easy. A perfect loop will go on there every single time. But when you take a guy that's a 5, 6, or 7, he gets 2 coils back. It's not easy for him anymore. It's a huge challenge. And so for a guy that's wanting to just make a free throw shot every day, literally writing their letters and writing their name perfect, making those motor skills a permanent pattern in their swing, it's super, super important. We can't just expect those things to come out of the middle of the air. Let me show you this calf head real quick, and I'm going to get back to the team roping here. So in our calf roping head, and I'm just going to discuss this real quick, what we wanted to do is we wanted a dummy that actually ran and had a head down like a running calf would. And so a lot of the calf dummies come up, they sit up, the heads are up high, they're sticking up off the shoulders, and that's ideal. Truly it is. It's ideal if a calf would stick his head up for it. It's truly ideal if a steer would stick his head up for us. But the bottom line is when something's running hard and flat out, where's their head and their nose? Is it up here? No, it's flat out. They're running. And those are the ones that eliminate people. And do you want to be someone who's eliminated every time that variable's thrown at you? Or do you want to know how to just make it just another delivery? And so we took that to our calf roping dummy. We wanted something that they not only had to get a good swing and a good plane on, and mind you, don't rope it with the post. You don't need to. It's challenging enough just by itself. But if you drop your loop just a hair early, it will skip off the top of this head, and it's going to land right out on the floor. If you do not have dip to the tip of your rope, you will not rope that head. It'll go over the top of it over and over and over. The second you get your angle down and you get that plane of that delivery the calf ropers have from the other side, it's going to go on there and it's going to look like it's easy as pie. The other thing we wanted to do is have an actual realistic height off the ground. So we didn't have something that was too short, you're just side arming, something just stuck out there. And so we wanted that in there, so they're roping it by the neck. The other thing is, almost literally every dummy that's made, whether it's got an extended neck or short neck or sticks up or sticks out, doesn't matter. You can all rope them up near the head. With this dummy, you can't rope it up here near the head. It will slide off. And by doing that, when you see a calf loop that goes up around the back of the head, it'll curl and come back here, and a lot of times they'll have a back foot or a tail or something else in that calf, and then it goes to your run just totally eroded. Even though you caught them, it's going to be a wreck on the ground. So that's what we wanted there, is to have something that just simply slid inside, and you could pack in there and calf rope when you needed a calf rope. And a lot of these people that have kids at high school rodeo and junior high rodeo, these kids are doing everything. And so one dummy truly does everything. On the back feet, it took the longest and was the most tedious to design. Reason being is, you start looking at heel horses at different heights, the sizes of guys' heel loops, and everything else. We had to find that common denominator in that average size loop. And then we wanted to work on the angles that were involved in a heel loop. All of us who have ever roped a sawhorse know how easy it is to swing that big loop and get it to swing in there. If I take a loop that I'd normally swing over the top of a sawhorse, okay, and I'm over the top of my sawhorse, and I'm going to come down to deliver. If I get like that, that loop right there would have hit and curled around. Even though my tip was not ahead of my hand, it would have went right around the sawhorse's legs, and it would have looked beautiful. And if I throw that loop 50 times, and then I go out on my horse, and I reach up there, and I just rope a steer right smack by the front foot, or hit him in the rib cage, don't even make it to the ground. I mean, it's pretty depressing. And again, we wanted this to be just slightly challenging, kind of conditioning your swing and stuff, but without leaving you high emotional boost on the ground and a big emotional boost or letdown in the arena. So on the visuals, we did the same thing here. I could have done this top leg at any angle I had chose. And so what I did is we were looking at a heeler, and remind you, a heeler is over here on the left, and we're going to pretend our steer's running this away. Header's over there. We got our shoulder cocked back to him, and that guy nods, and we come out. We track our steer. We look up there, and we get our tip going, and we aim it at that steer's hip, and we follow him down the arena. So what I did is I wanted to create an angle, and if you notice there, I'm swinging at the same angle as the top of that leg. So it gives me a visual, making sure my tip's down. If I'm here with my shoulder down low on the ground, which is what a lot of people do when they heel, they drop their shoulder, and so they come around here, and it's got some angle, but again, they're going to get the rewarding sound of it hitting plastic. Okay? So first thing it is it's a visual. Second thing I wanted to do is develop a dummy that allowed every one of my swings to be a delivery. I didn't want to have to manipulate anything. When I heel a cow, as difficult as it is for me, I want to be right there, ride good position, perfect swing, and I just want to rotate my shoulders and rope 2 feet. I don't want to have to modify. I don't want to change anything. I'm looking for a free throw shot.
Ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to let you know real quick, Fred Whitfield's over in the cinch booth signing autographs.
Okay.
And be sure and go see Casey Field over in the Wrangler booth.
And so right here, we've got these angles cut out. This 90 degree is just gone. It's not there. And this is so as we come around here, we can keep our tip directly at our target. And on a steer, we're going to swing just in front of the tailbone of a steer. We want to be over their back right before it delivers. So when I walk in here to heel a steer now, I'm going to go up and high, and I'm going to come around. I'm going to turn in. I'm going to change the plane of my swing now so it's coming across the back. But I can swing right at my target. I can sit here and just tick these legs. And that's going to allow me to make every swing a delivery. I just rotate my shoulders, and now I can rope. That same loop that we threw earlier where I delivered it a little bit flat, a little bit early with my hand, none of those swept through there that easy. None of them. So it gives you the ability to aim right at your target and not have to change anything. The other thing was we wanted something that was of a challenge here on the back feet. It's only 2 inches off the ground. I grew up roping a sawhorse. I should say grew up in my roping career roping a sawhorse, and never worried too much about my rope coming underneath. Never saw a need for it. The rope is in the front. The steer is going to jump into it. And on this particular dummy, when you look at the power that's created with the swing and centrifugal force, honestly, when that tip goes down, it will draw your loop, your bottom strand, to the dirt. And naturally, if you had a sawhorse and it was elevated, if you throw a good loop, it is going to sweep under the back feet unless you literally try to manipulate it and stop it and place it on the ground and try to keep it from going underneath the feet. And so having it a little bit elevated is a really good thing. The opening on it, again, like I said, it's sized to where you want to use a full-size loop. If you got a kid that ropes or yourself's challenged, you might make yourself a box. Draw something on here so you rope from the same spot every time so you're not changing it. Little kids, when I say little, I mean like 3, 4, 5-year-olds, we'll take a pallet, cover it with plywood, and make them rope off the pallet. That gives them a little zone that they can stay in so they're not running all over, getting bad position, doing things they shouldn't be doing. They got to rope from that little spot. It's kind of like keeping them pinned, but it develops good habits. So, but that's kind of the idea behind the back feet. In practicing on this, some of the drills and stuff that I do to get myself sharp is I want to work on my entry. I want to work on that angle. I want to work on my tip coming over the back. And so one of the analogies that I like to use with people is parking a car. All of us that tow a horse trailer obviously drive trucks. And parking a truck these days in these modern day parking lots is a piece of work. I mean, it's tough. You don't just whip in there and pull in unless it's at an angle. So a person who's going to come into the corner for a heel shot, if you think about parking a car, they're on the far right-hand side of that parking row. And then they get up high and they turn in so they don't hit the taillight of the other car, so they don't sideswipe the other car. And so it just allows me to work on my entry into the dummy. And I'll place a bucket about right over here. And that keeps me going up and around, up and around. And so when you think about your approach to a steer the next time you rope, kind of think about that. Because if you're in a parking lot and you roll here to the inside and you think you're going to make that turn and get parked, it ain't going to happen. You're going to have to back all the way up. You're going to come back over here, get out wide, and then turn in. And so we wanted this dummy to be able to be roped from different angles, but we don't want you to think that roping it here from the side and practicing shot is an everyday place to rope from. On the circles on the side of this dummy, we wanted something that when I was done, I could take my dummy ropes, and take them with me, and I'm not messing up my good ropes. So basically, you just open this up, lay your rope in there, close it down, and you've got your 2 ropes, your head, your heel rope, your head's inside, your horn's inside, everything else, you slip it in your truck, and you can roll. So that gives you kind of an overview of our dummy. What I'd like to do now is I'd like to bring out a couple volunteers, swing a few loops, work with a few of you, and see what kind of results we can get. Do I have any volunteers? I promise to be nice. He's ready. Come on up. He's got a San Antonio rodeo hat on. Is that what that is? Oh, he knows a good rodeo. All right, here you go. Do you head or heel, sir?
Head.
Okay, and what's your name?
Mike Todd.
Mike Todd. Where are you from, Mike?
Austin.
Austin, Texas. Okay, Mike. So let's go ahead and let's check out your head loop. And the first thing I want to do is I want to pull this post out, and we'll just let you throw a few loops. Go ahead and throw another one. Okay, good deal. Let's go put this in. Mike, you got a pretty good loop. And one thing he did really, really well when he walked up, and it might be because I just said it, he might naturally rope from way over here, but he's staying out really, really wide. And when you approach a steer, I don't care if it's a dummy or whatever it is, you want to stay out wide and just get just close enough to rope. You don't want to ride up on him and have to get away. You want to come out the left side or the middle of the box, stay out just wide enough, just close enough to throw your rope. And so I definitely, where you're roping from is perfect position. It's not in the way. Okay. Why don't you go ahead and just throw a couple more. Same thing you're doing. And we'll just make just a couple little changes. Good. Only really change I want to make is in your build-up, you got, when you notice when you're pulling your slack, you got a lot of slack left in your rope when you're going back here like that. And so as you get your rope down a little bit and you change, let's just go ahead and change. Go ahead and build your loop and everything for me. I'm not going to change anything there. Your spoke looks really good. Your loop looks good. We're just going to take a few inches here out of your slack. So when you feed your rope, you definitely don't want to be handcuffed, but you sure don't want to have a bunch of loose rope between your hands, so when you throw it, you kind of get a deadness to your loop. And what it's going to do is just that little change, and he had good playing on that last loop he brought across. It's going to make it snappier and just a little tighter. You notice where he packed his hand there? Was anybody watching how high he stuck his hand on that loop? He took his, from right here, he took his hand all the way up here, got his tip down, his loop then opened up, and when he delivered, he came down and through, and that was the best loop you've thrown yet. You start your loop a little low, then you creep up. And there it is again. Notice how crisp those loops are. So as you start getting your hand up here and you get a little more accustomed to this thing being in your way, as he called it, you're going to start developing that. You're going to carry your hand higher, your tip's going to be a little bit lower, and all of a sudden your curls are going to start dropping down over here to the left-hand side. And when they drop down over here, there's no front feet in the way. There's no wave-offs. There's no split horns. That curl that lands right over here and is just absorbed when you snap your slack, that almost never comes off. I mean, we'll watch guys drop 3 or 4 coils here. They're going to go at it when they snap that slack. When it's that good loop, it's going to weld itself on. So,
I like it so. I'm getting one for Christmas.
hey, all right. Merry Christmas. There you go. Perfect. All right. Anybody we got a healer in the house? Anybody rope back feet? All right. He pointed at somebody. He volunteered you. No, the kid right next to you, it must be your son or something pointing in your ear. It's not a friend. If he was, he's not a friend anymore, right? I just want you to go ahead and... What's your name, sir? Gene. Gene? Where are you from?
Jackson Hole, Wyoming.
Jackson Hole, Wyoming. He's a Grand Teton man. It's pretty country. Okay. Go and throw another loop. Okay. Now what I want you to do in this next loop you throw, I want you to keep your shoulder turned back here, and I want you to keep swinging at it, and I want you to turn in. When you turn in, I want you to swing where your tip is not down here at the back of this carpet. I want you to swing your tip just right up here, just a little bit higher, right where this plane is, and I want you to try to see your tip go across these legs left to right. Okay? So keep your same angle, but get up just that tip. Okay, go ahead and throw another one. And when you get to that spot, feel free to take a few swings before you deliver if you want. I don't expect you to square it and launch it. And all it's going to do is you got really good angle on your loop. Everything looks good. Your tip's got pretty good power, and you got pretty good delivery point. Stay right behind it. There you go. Good. And it's going to keep your loop up higher on the steer's legs. When you got that loop up pointed up there above that tailbone, and you're not swinging down behind real steep and trying to place it up over here, when you rope at feet, and I don't know how many of you heel have ever looked at a steer's feet and your loop landed right there at a steer's feet. Yeah, I mean, we go around the corner and you watch steer's feet, and all of a sudden you're like, watch a video, and your rope literally hits the steer 6 inches off the ground. And that's the last place we want it. That's going to be a nicer loop. Nicer loop. Went right through the entire opening and blossomed really well. One thing you can do when you're letting go of your heel loops too, and everybody's heeled. I mean, have you ever had a heel horse feel short, shut down, turn a little sideways on us? When we lean and step as we practice on the dummy, I believe everything that we've designed, and the reason we designed it is we carry it to horseback. So if you stay with your left foot forward the entire time, like you'd be riding in your left lead, and keep your power there, and use your right foot for that power, like to push off, and rotate your shoulders when you deliver, it'll help you have more rotation and more power. And on horseback, if we come around the corner and we do this, I guarantee you a good heel horse is going to stop. And so as you walk up to your dummy, if you step onto your right foot and drop your shoulder down here, we're going to be getting ground sometimes to the tip of our rope right here that was just unnecessary. And so what I do is I do a kind of a scoochy step. I just step with my left foot, and I just keep it like this, because on a horseback, we're positioned just like this. We twist our right stirrup out, and that's our balance point. It's like being inside the bed of a truck, and if that truck's driving in a left-hand circle, you sure enough aren't going to lean outside on your right foot. If you do, where are you going to fly? You're going to fly out the bed of the truck. And so you want to keep that weight to the inside and have yourself positioned. Horse is going to be in its left lead. So it's good to practice that on the ground as well. And just keep your shoulder back. There you go. Good. Softest swing you threw and the biggest loop it was.
Yeah. I'm the height of inconsistency.
You're the height of inconsistency, huh? Well, that's what we designed this for guys just like you then. So anybody else who's a header, I want to bring another header up here. Let's work with a couple headers. Come on up. You ready? You're not ready? You want to try it? Come on up, Dad. Oh, you're not roping. He's running. Mom's trying to hand it. How about you? You head or heel? Yeah, but you. Here, this kid over here. Come here. You're volunteering them up. Come give it a try. Let's see your loop. Come on up.
I'm gonna pass.
You're going to pass? You want to try it? Come on up. What do you do, head or heel?
Head.
Head. Good deal. What's your name? And where are you from? You're from Jackson Hole, too. Good deal. What's your biggest miss in team roping? What do you typically run into more often than not? You ever split the horns, wave it off? Wave it off, okay. More of a flat loop. Okay, let's go and throw another one. And your build-up's going to be key here. We want to make sure our loop is built up to a point that will open up right directly over the horns. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do just a couple changes with you here real quick. One of the things I like to do when I approach a dummy and get ready to rope is I like to start my loop as quick and as powerful as I can. And in doing that, if I have to drag it up from behind me, and guys in different shaped pins and rodeo runs, they'll drag your loop up from different places, and they can start a loop like magicians. They're just great. But the thing that I like to have people think about is how a waitress would walk through a restaurant with a tray of food on her hand. She doesn't walk on it out here in front of her. She doesn't drag it back in here behind. And my wife's biggest thing, she likes to sit here when she ropes the dummy. She likes to go like this and get a head start on it so she can get her tip out. When we're backed into a head box, I don't typically see anybody getting a chance to do this, and then they're going to nod, and they're going to try to get the rope up and get out of the box. They're back there, they're stationary, and they're still. And so we do what we call waitress position. You walk around here with your hand up here like this, and the other part of it is butler position. And your butler sticks his hand out like this. He's got a towel on his arm, right? Okay, so when you're riding your horse, you want your hand right out here in front. You want your reins down here where you can control your horse. You want to make sure you're not handcuffed here because you're going to your feet your rope. And when you start your loop this time, what I want you to do, instead of dragging it up, like I want you to get back here and get in a total frozen position, I want you just to swing out and turn it over and look at that steer. Loop should just go right over your head, okay? And just start your loop there. And then what I want you to do, when you walk up to this dummy, and headers, this is what I do. We take a step back from these legs, and we take 2 big steps over, and guess what? It lines us up at the post. Kind of like a place kicker for football. Get your left foot forward. Get some body underneath you. That's your right foot. You Wyoming. You know, I think coming from Montana, I don't know, I think Wyoming people picked on us, and we picked on North Dakotans. I think it's just one of those things. It's everything the same there. Get that loop built up. Get your hand up high and your left foot down. Whoa. And where's the waitress position? Back here, freeze it. Freeze. Freeze. Get your left foot forward now. I want you to get down like you're riding that horse. If you're going to lean in here with your shoulders like you're going to bump me. Come on. I want to feel you. That's how you should be over your horse. Your horse is going to be running. You're either over the top of him, or you're going to be Humpty Dumpty laying on the back of the kennel. Okay, so keep your power down like that. Keep your shoulder down. And when you start this swing, I want you to try to hit my hand with it right over here. Good. Now look through your loop. Swing down a little lower. Look through your loop. Turn it over, all the way over. Okay, if you're ready. Good. All right. We are going to need to change a couple things here, build up. And I want you really looking. I'm going to make this going to seem really, really weird for you, okay? I want you looking through your loop. When I mean looking through your loop, you ever say boo? What's your least favorite sports team? Who's your favorite?
Boise State Broncos.
Okay, Broncos. You like the Boise State, you said?
Yep.
Boise State Broncos. Okay, so you don't want to say go Cats or go Grizz from Montana, right? No. Okay, yeah, no. So you're going to go boo when you see that. Bring your hand all the way over and rotate it down to where it's going to be like a full-fledged boo. And you back your hands right out here, okay? All the way over, boo. All the way over, boo. Boo. Now look through there, boo. Swing over towards me. Remember, I'm still here. Now slow and just reach up there and put that on the horns. Better. I don't want you to try to just release your rope and deliver. Try not to lean your whole body. Don't take a step to your right front foot. I want you to stay back and just reach up there and over the pole and place it on the horns, okay? Whoa, back. Waitress, stop. Start over. Oh, yeah. Frozen. Left shoulder down like you're over your horse. Get ready. Let's be real. Rope like you mean it here, okay? Bend that knee and got some weight into it where your horse can't throw you back. Out and tip down. Good. Good start. You see how crisp that is for that start of that loop? Stay back. Now slowly place it. You're getting good power and everything like that, but what he's doing here, if you guys notice, his loops, like he's saying a wave off, his loops are so flat, and they're coming from right up here trying to come around. They're coming around so flat, they're literally missing it. Now, if I was to take this dummy and I was to prop it up and take that pole out, those loops he's throwing would be catching it. But do I want to have to modify this dummy? Do something to it, change it, raise its head up, elevate it to make it easier to catch. Does that do us any good? No, it doesn't do us any good at all. So you want to keep your hand up as high as you can, rotate and pop that elbow. Look at me. Try to pop that elbow completely over and swing slower and more perfect. Nice and smooth. Don't pump it. There you go. Turn it over. You need full boo. There's no boo. Where's your boo? Boo. All the way over. Now slowly just extend the loop up there and put it on there. Don't take a jumbo step. Good. Good. All right, you're about 3/4 of the way there to your first full-fledged clean catch. What kind of dummy do you rope at home? You got a head and a bale of hay? You got a little 3-prong deal? Or? Yeah? Well, what you want to do is on this deal right here is you want to go ahead and think about the elevation you need to come from. It's not sitting there. You can't swing it back and forth. Hand up high. Waitress position. I want you really to get this in the palm of your loop. So when you come across here, just like you ever fish?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can feel a bite on the tip of your finger, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, you can feel the tip of your rope with your index finger too. So you come around there, send your tip over towards me. Good. Do you feed your rope at all? Let's try to feed it if you do. Good. Now turn it all the way over though. All the way over. Look through it. Every time you see this head, I want you to say there. 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 Throw it on there. Can't throw it early. And those are the loops right there. That's a classic example of how many of us has dropped our rope early and it slid down the side of a steer's head. I mean, we come out of the box, we get swinging, and we get up on one, and we just drop it early and send it down the side of the head. If I was to take that pole out of there, and that loop right there just comes across like you would have thrown it, rope both horns, what benefit would I be doing this young man? Nothing at all. And so that post right there is going to be a little bit of a challenge to you. Okay? There you go. Good start. Good. Oh, you're gonna have to practice that a little bit. All right. Let's go ahead and get another healer right here. Appreciate it. You did a good job.
Thanks.
Thanks for letting me work with you. We got anybody else that heals? What do you do, sir? Do you head or heel? Yeah. You head? You want to give it a try? That's okay. That's one of the benefits of this dummy too, and people, you know, they'll say, I haven't had time to practice much. And truly, when we don't have time to practice and we get a chance to walk out there and pitch a few loops, the last thing I want to do is go ahead and develop some bad habits. All right, let's build that loop up there, and I want you to get it down. I want you to start by coming from the outside and turning your hand all the way over and just looking right through the middle of the loop. You want to look through your loop. So hold on a second here. Let me give you a little hand here. We're going to go bigger here.
Okay.
I'm going to make it bigger. We're going to be able to feel your tip a little bit better. And then when you come right here, all I want you to do, let me give this 1 second here. Let's get that big old twist out of there for you. And just bring it around like this and take your hand and rotate it. Like that, okay? Rotate your wrist completely over. And if you're starting roping or you're a real, intermediate roper and you're learning to rope, take your hand down and throw it. Okay, you're going to want to work more on the beginning part of your swing. And what you can use here on this dummy is your lineup. You want to line yourself up and you want to perfect before you even throw your rope. You want to take it and turn your elbow over so you can see that head and that post through the middle of your loop. Okay? And so when we're over our head swinging up here, and there's a lot of guys that do it. They'll tip their head sideways and they'll swing their head loop up here. They'll get underneath it, Really, when you get that tip down and we're looking through the middle of that window, that gives us a sight window. And it also lets us know when our tip is coming through. Slow it down, really slow it down. I want you to look right at me, sir. There we go. And he's over. We're going to take it one more here. Let's take this like this. I want you just to go ahead and rotate your shoulder for me. Turn your wrist over in the boo position. So when you stop your hand over here like it hits an invisible wall and you're swinging around, keep your hand over there. Don't move. This is going to come by you. Keep your hand over there. This is going to come by you, and you're going to be able to look through it. And then after it comes by you, it's going to go over your head. You're just going to rotate your wrist back around to that waitress position. And you're back here where you want to start your swing from. So we'll go back here flat, come around, and turn it over. And see how you're looking through it? So kind of like you're reaching out and around. Get the tip a little bit, bring it out, and turn it down. And then go over. So look through it. Rotate more. Rotate more. Rotate that wrist all the way down. There you go. A little bit better. Okay, now go ahead and we'll give her a pitch. Hey, you caught one. There we go. But anyway, so we have a guy that doesn't get to rope as much and you get your time. And I don't know, me working with the wife and kids and everything else we have going on, our time in the arena is really, really valuable. But when I can walk by it and I can pick up a rope and I can rope 2 or 3 times and know that it's going to keep me sharp like we're sitting on horseback, that is a good thing. It's something to help us keep right there in the middle where we want to. So a guy like you, we'd want to turn around and really, really, like I said, work on getting that loop turned over, looking around through it. We got a long ways to go to get to.
But see, I'm just a ranch hand, so
Sure,
I'm doing
sure.
I'm just doing calves at roundup time.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of guys that like my father-in-law, throws a real ranchy loop down sidearm. And so when he walks up to rope this, he has to really physically make himself carry the loop and get it out in a flat plane. For him, it's a big struggle to swing a loop that's flat across the shape of the level of the horns. Try to get down and look through it. That's pretty small. Hold on 1 second here. Let's just keep everything you got the same. Feed some in tip. But I want you to really keep your tip down and look through the middle of it. Tip it and look through. You want to look through your loop. Yeah, we got some work to do on that. That's for that. Honestly, there's a drill, and I'll show you the drill that I do to get people swinging a good circle. Let's take this here, and there's a couple guys that do clinics that use this technique, and it's pretty clever. It works real well. Is we take the tail of your rope and we teach you to swing it first. And so you take this with your hand here, like this. Let me see. We're gonna make sure we're getting right here. And you want to swing it with your thumb down and get the tail of that rope swinging. And what you want to do is I want you to make sure that tip floats flat right over the top of the horns. And see, it's going to be a big challenge with that loop you're throwing. So this drill right here, I'm going to reach out behind, and this is the best way to start it. Kick your rope out as far as you can. Kick your rope out here, and then when you start it, bring it out and around, just like you need to on a team roping loop. Get your tip up. There you go. And you want to get that thumb down and keep the tip across. You want to get it flat. You notice how you're coming like you talked about a rancher's loop? Coming down here to the right. You want to rotate it over more. There's that rotation of the wrist we're looking for. That's the rotation I was trying to get you to do earlier. And so get it going all the way flat across the horns, and then just reach up and put that rope right at the base of the right horn. Okay, good deal. Perfect. So that's a drill you might want to go home and master first.
Home. Thank you. Yeah,
yep,
that's
absolutely.
awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, so in closing here on this, I just wanted, like I said, take a few minutes to expose you to our dummy. Is there anybody that has any questions about it real quick before we finish up? Good deal. All right, so again, just in a recap, obviously we've got the removable head, the removable horns, and on these horns what we do is we give you a longhorn set of horns, And we also do a small Corriente set of horns on there. So you've got both sizes. And again, some guys have asked me, do you need bigger, wider horns? And the bottom line is I can take pieces of PVC pipe and I can stick them out another 20, 30 inches and throw the exact same loop. As long as I'm carrying it past the center of the head before I do that rotation, my loop will mimic exactly what my hand does. And a lot of guys, if you slow them down, you don't realize it, but it's like a trick roper. Everything their hand does, their loop does. And as a good header, you get that nice tight swing. Go like this. Everything your hand does, your loop is going to do. So mastering that, getting your hand across, you'll be able to rope any width horns you need to. And so I want to thank you guys for your time, and thanks for stopping by and checking out the dummy. And if you've got any other questions, our booth is located right back over here next to Shoot Help. We'd be glad to let you rope it over there and answer any questions you have. And we'll see you over here tomorrow if you guys want to come back out and check it out again.
Ladies and gentlemen, how about a hand for John McCarthy with RopeSmart Steers?